Hey, this is Ishar, and in today's talk, I want to go over a very common misconception about the law of attraction. So, oftentimes, when people are getting into the law of attraction or manifestation practices, they are told to add a lot of emotion towards their visualizations and manifestations. So, an example would be if a person would like to manifest a car, so their dream car, they would be told to add a lot of emotions and add excitement and be really excited about manifesting their car. Now, this approach of adding a lot of emotion isn't really effective. And the reason why is that we are trying to get to a state in which we already have the car that we want or the things that we want in life. So you may have heard of the saying, act as if you already have something. And this is a very powerful teaching because if you already had the things that you want, how would you be acting? You'd be acting from a place of acceptance, of ease. You wouldn't really be displaying a lot of emotions because you already have the thing that you want. Rather, you would be walking through life with just confidence that you have things that you want. So there's no effort involved or a lot of emotion that you need to generate. So a person that has, for example, a Ferrari and already has it in their garage wouldn't be opening up their garage door and jumping for joy every time they saw their Ferrari. Sure, they probably would for the first 2 days, but afterwards they just see their car and be like, oh, cool, this is my car, and just open their door. Likewise, that's the same mentality that we need to approach our manifestations. Act as if it's very normal for you to have the things that you want. And if you really did have the things that you want, would you really be jumping for joy every single day? I mean, that's amazing if you could, but that's really not that realistic. But why has this whole approach of being very excited about things, how's that come to existence? The reason why that has become so popular amongst the law of attraction teachers, especially Jerry and Esther Hicks, who've talked a lot about adding emotions, is because of their audience. So their audience members are typically coming from a very low down place where they feel a lot of apathy or a lot of rejection in life, and they just don't have enough energy to go after their goals. So this is why they purposely rile them up with a lot of energy before they start to, get them to manifest different things or use visualization practices. You can see this quite often in the self-help industry, where if you go to a seminar by like Tony Robbins, for example, he'll have you jump up and down for a minute and then say yes and do a lot of affirmations and then sit down and do the practices. The reason why is because his audience members are coming from such a low down place that they need to be uplifted before they can do anything. And to go further with this, if we study scales of energy or consciousness, there are different models out there. So there are models by Fred Dodson, David Hawkins also has written a book on levels of consciousness. But just to sum it up, there are different energy levels that humans will typically vibrate at or occupy, and there's a certain frequency range. And if we look down very low in these scales, we'll have emotions such as shame or guilt or anger. And apathy is one of the lowest human emotions out there. So this is where you don't even feel anything at all. And this is why when people are coming from that place and they just don't have any inspiration or motivation, they actually do need that emotions that motivation to get them to focus on their goals. Because if they're coming from the place of just not caring at all, well, they're not really going to manifest anything at all because they're going to keep attracting unwanted situations in life. So by having them jump to a place of excitement, which is a mid level of energy, well, then they'll start to feel a bit more excited, and now they're a bit closer to manifesting what they want. And just a general summary of the scales of emotions. At very low energies, we have inaction, where you're not really focusing on anything and you just feel dejected and you don't have enough energy to go forward. Once you've gone past inaction, then you start to get to a place of activity. So you now have enough personal power where you can now work on your goals, you can plan things out, you can, say you can like now create a plan for yourselves. Like if I do this every single day, then in the next year I'll be able to accomplish this goal. This is where activity comes into place, and it's very important for a person to develop activity and set goals and personal visions. But beyond activity comes happiness and productivity. So now this is about simplifying the processes. This is about easing off from overworking yourself to death. And this is where you'll be able to manifest things with a lot less effort. Then above that, you'll start to get more peak performance kind of mentality. And then above that, you'll have at the highest levels of human emotions and scales, you'll have synchronicities and extraordinary outcomes that will just happen. This is taken from the David Hawkins scale. Now, when we get to this place of synchronicity, this is where the real law of attraction teachings come into place. This is where you'll start to notice patterns. You'll notice just by focusing your attention, you can get a lot of things done. And just by being in the vicinity of what you want, well, then you'll start to accomplish the things that you want. So you can make things a lot easier for yourself if you just bypass all these layers and go to the end result as it is. And this is why you might have heard of the sayings, you are the five people that you hang out with most, because people have understand from the beginning of time that the people that you surround yourself with will radically change your life. So if you hang around with people who are really wealthy, for example, you'll naturally start to adopt their traits, their mindsets, how they approach their life. Likewise, if you are trying to advance in your business at your workplace and you want to become a manager, rather than hanging out with other employees on the same level of you, start to hang out with other managers and you'll naturally uh, shortcut that process and cut your learning curve. Now, if you're coming from that employee mindset where you're not the boss yet, you may have to rile yourself up and say, I'm going to be a boss one day. And you get super excited and you create vision boards and you try to rile yourself up. And that certainly works, but it takes a lot of time and effort. And you're also creating a lot of resistance because you're creating desire, which puts your goal up on a pedestal, which makes it harder for you, ironically, to accomplish. So again, how do we bypass this? Well, instead of riling yourself up and getting really excited to become a boss, why don't you just hang around with other bosses or label yourself as a boss? Then you shortcut that process and it becomes a lot easier for you to manifest that. And if you really are a boss, you wouldn't be jumping around, be like, yeah, I'm a boss. You'd probably just be walking around and acting and conducting yourself normally. So the key takeaway behind this is that becoming excited and really riling yourself up with a lot of emotions can work only if you're coming from a very low down place. But again, you're creating a lot of resistance and making it really hard for yourself. So if you already have the things that you want and you're acting from the end goal, you'd be acting from a different place, which is more based out of confidence, from self assuredness, and just really acceptance of what you have. So act as if things in your life are completely normal. So your ideal reality is very normal. And that actually speeds up and the chances and the likelihood of that actually occurring. So that's the best approach. If you'd like to learn a bit more about the law of attraction more in depth, feel free to check out my book, which is titled Understanding the Law of Attraction. This is now out on Audible and Kindle as well. So thank you again for listening to this talk.